posters, so I'm going to need all the help I can get. But first, I want everybody, if you can, to stand up and give yourselves a round of applause for being here. And loudly, multiple. Okay, I feel better. I'm calmer. I do want to thank you all for your bravery in being here today, and all of the volunteers who have put this together, and all of our incredible elected officials and leaders in the room. I just want to say I'm a Tennessee voter. I'm a mother. I'm a woman. I had a trans sister-in-law who was a great love of my life. She sadly passed away. She was a great inspiration to me. In my 20s, I had to make a life-changing decision for my own body. And here I am, a mother of 2 boys. I also have a 21-year-old stepdaughter. And it really haunts me every day that they don't have the same opportunities to make choices about their lives, about who they want to be, who they want to love, and how they want to handle their body. But I choose hope, like all of you in this room, and I choose to fight. And an incredible activist is here, Albert Bender. He's a philosopher, a writer, a historian, attorney, and member of the Cherokee Nation. And he is currently chairman of Tennessee's American Indian Coalition. And he is here to share a few words of wisdom. Welcome. One more time. Let's try. Is he right there? Yeah. Welcome, Albert. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really glad to be here, and this is my first town hall meeting. And normally, I would like to be the first one to speak. It gives you a feeling of, well, exactly what should I say? Oh, but Justin asked me to speak about some of the things that we've been doing in the Indigenous community. First off, I'd like to say, as far as myself is concerned, I'm the chairperson of the Tennessee chairperson of the Indigenous Peoples Coalition, and I'm also a former practicing attorney. I'm a historian, author, community activist, and also I like to consider myself as being a bit of a philosopher, as it were. In the Indigenous community, we have been the recipient of a number of victories over the years. I would say our most recent one has been dealing with the name change of Cumberland Park to Ogles Park. Which is the ancient Shawnee name of the Cumberland River. And after the name change to Ogles Park, I was asked by a member of the community, have you thought about changing the name of the Cumberland River? And I said, well, that has occurred to me. Over the years, we have achieved a number of, I would say, notable victories. We were responsible for the naming of the, we're responsible for Metro Council recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day in 2017, and also prior to that, we were responsible for a resolution being passed by Metro Council in support of the Standing Rock Sioux struggle against the Dapple.
Yes.
As of recently, we had a community meeting on June the 21st, and the purpose of this community meeting was to stand in opposition to the ICE raid against the Latino community. And the crucible or principle of our demonstration and rally at that time, the theme, so to speak, was that Latino people, the majority, are either indigenous or of indigenous descent. And we took it even further than that to say that we stand in solidarity with all migrants in the United States. And I would like to say that in this regard, we echo the rallying cry of indigenous people across the United States that no one is illegal on stolen land. Thank you for that audio applause. As of most recently, we are in the process of starting what's called a MILPA project, which is a native agricultural project on certain or in certain metro parks in the Nashville metro Tennessee area. And the most notable of our endeavors in this regard is we have started a MILPA park at the West Park in Nashville, and also have started a MILPA park, a MILPA agricultural area at the Shelby Bottoms Nature Center. And we have a lot of other projects that we are looking at, and we are looking for community support. And again, I am so gratified to have the opportunity to speak to you, even though I'm the first speaker again. And I will stop at this point, and we will continue on with our program. And thank everyone so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Albert. Now, our next guest is Melinda Hudgens-Noblett. She's an award-winning leader known for her exceptional impact, innovation, and advocacy for equality. She's currently the interim executive director for Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, which provides compassionate immigration legal services to our neighbors seeking humanitarian relief. Please give a warm welcome to Melinda.
Thanks for that warm introduction, Christina. As she mentioned, I'm Melinda Noblett. Today I'm coming to you on behalf of Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, a nonprofit law firm providing legal representation to immigrants seeking humanitarian relief. We also educate the community about issues related to immigration and advocate for immigrant rights and dignity. Our clients are the global majority. They may have been born in some 50 countries around the world, but they've made lives for themselves here in this country and right here in this district. They are your neighbors, they're your friends and your colleagues, they're you. Our team at JFON works with these folks day in and day out, and we witness the experiences and the impacts of families being torn apart, families who continue living in fear. That includes the distraught abuelita whose grandson was detained during the ICE sweeps in May. It's the terrified mother-to-be whose baby is due later this year, asking whether the birth certificate will include the words U.S. citizen. And it's the Afghan asylum seekers who were unable to bring their families when they first fled to this country and are now being told by the State Department that the travel ban applies to them, meaning they're now forbidden from bringing their families with them. One thing has become very clear. This administration is dedicated to ending all forms of immigration to the U.S., legal or otherwise. They're systematically limiting legal pathways and revoking legal statuses, while also establishing new ways of criminalizing being undocumented. And these decisions are affecting people who thought they were safe, when in reality, it was just a matter of time before they too were targeted. Every day unlocks a new terror for this community. But here's the thing. We cannot lose hope. We cannot sink into that fear. That's exactly what this administration wants us to do. After all, fear divides us, right? Instead, we must come together in solidarity. We may all have different stories of origin, and we might even speak different languages at home, but we're all humans, and we're all deserving of receiving and giving dignity and respect. And at the end of the day, we're all living here together in this community, side by side as neighbors. So this is the time to continue showing up to these events. Keep yourself informed. Read beyond the headlines and beyond the clickbait. Call your representatives. Send them emails. It actually does matter. Check in on your immigrant neighbors and start a dialogue with them. Whether you've got 10 minutes or 10 hours to give, no effort is too small. And what I want to remind you today is that we all have a role to play in this ecosystem. I encourage you to use your voice, to use your dollar, and to use your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morgan, for that incredible advice. Our next guest needs a huge round of applause when she comes out. She's a 17-year-old USN student. And this is her first time doing anything like this. She wrote a beautiful poem independently on her own. This wasn't part of her school curriculum. She just decided to write it from her heart. Here she is, 17-year-old Brecken Forsey.
America wears a flag like a hospital gown, open in the back, stitched with myths and stained with forgetting. America is a mansion with gold doorknobs and blood under the floorboards. She serves champagne to billionaires while children drink lead from faucets lined in rust. A man in a suit builds rockets while women bleed out in parking lots, told their wounds are public domain now. Told the state knows better than to scream in their own bones. Told choice was a luxury they no longer qualify for. That health is a product and justice a lottery ticket. The Constitution hangs like an antique rifle, polished, unused, and pointed at the past. I watched children practice lockdown drills with the same small hands they used to build block towers. I watch women bleed rights on the pavement while men in pressed suits debate whether their pain is marketable. I watch ice melt like a throat closing, the planet begging in a language we've muted for convenience. And still, they tell us it's working, that this is what democracy looks like. No, this is what grief looks like when it's forced to wear red, white, and blue. America, you are the unfinished poem scratched into the desk of a student who was never taught how to dream outside a test score. A mother crosses borders with her baby sewn to her chest, running from a fire lit by a country that now greets her with cages. We tell her there is no room, but we make room for oil, for stock options, for the next war that looks good on a campaign ad. She speaks in the language of survival, but we don't translate pain without profit. And still women march, with coat hangers raised like broken flags, with rage etched on their hips and hope curled in the fists of their daughters. America sells freedom like a brand and puts compassion on backboard. But I believe not in her institutions, her marble monuments, her evil-blood slogans, but in the quiet rebellion of kindness. Still we rise not from pride, but from protest. Not for stars and stripes, but for the quiet revolutions happening in every corner they pretend not to see.
Yeah.
In the fire escape garden the girl plants in the Bronx. In the protest signs written in every language grief knows. In the hands that still reach for the broken when all the headlines say step over. A girl teaching her grandmother English on the subway bench. An immigrant writing code for a country that won't learn his name but needs his hands. There is a country buried inside the country. So let them keep their towers. Let them count their coins until they choke on them.
Yeah.
We are the fire in the foundation, the America they don't advertise, and we are not done rising.
That was incredible. I know Brecken told me she wanted to go into music management as her career, but I hope you still continue to write because you are unbelievable. It's funny, I'm just looking around and I don't see Andy Ogles here. I don't know, did anybody see him? No? Too bad, he's lost. Thank you again, Albert and Melinda and Chris Brecken, for all of your incredible words. Love, light, kindness, joy, and good trouble. These are all words I use to describe the incredible Justin Jones.
Yes.
I have watched him in the face of cruelty be brave. I've seen him not back down to bullies in the GOP, but instead turn their darkness into light. In fact, I met Justin after he received punishment of being put on the House Agricultural Committee. But what did Justin do? He turned something the GOP deemed negative into a positive. Visiting farmers around the state, asking them questions, falling in love with horseback riding, and coming over to my house to hug some cows. Yeah, that's how we met. I have a hobby farm. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I asked him if he needed to hug a cow. And it turns out he did want to. So that's what we have learned to do together, to heal through nature in a very cruel world. He inspires me and my family every day to have hope, to choose hope. Without further ado, the amazing Justin Jones.
Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Thank you all for being here today. This is what democracy looks like. This town hall is about sending a message that there's much more that unites us than divides us. You know, when you're elected to office, whether at the state or federal level, one of the most basic job responsibilities is to show up in your district, to be willing to answer questions, be willing to talk to your constituents, and actually being willing to stay in the community you claim to represent. Unfortunately, the congressman for this district, Andy Ogles, has been missing in action. Unfortunately, he has instead chosen the traffic and the politics of fear and division. Trying to make us afraid of our neighbors, trying to make us afraid of multiracial democracy. Let me give you a few examples, as he could not be here today. I took the liberty of printing his tweets from this week. To show you his messaging and to get your response. From one day ago, Andy Ogles' tweet. In America, our national language is English. If you don't know it, learn it. It's a beautiful language with words like naturalization and assimilation. Can I ask a question, Congressional District 5? How many people here speak more than one language? That's about half the room. Next tweet from a couple days ago. Zoran Little Mohammed Mamdani is an anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. Okay, how about this one? Maybe this will be more appealing to the Yeah, we can run DC. Senator Mike Lee and I introduced the Bowser Act to give Congress the authority to take back our capital city. This is huge momentum. Does anybody here live in Washington, D.C.? July 3rd, I'm asking Secretary Bergen to put Trump on Mount Rushmore. Given the Trump's recent achievements, especially the pending enactment of the big, beautiful bill, the historic act that will ignite America's golden age, it is essential that we immortalize him. Can I ask you a question about, is putting Trump on Mount Rushmore going to make your rent cheaper? No. Is access to health care or living wages? Yeah. Public schools? All right, this is the last one, because we've had enough of this foolishness. He retweeted a tweet that says, anybody who eats with their hands like this should be barred from ever being allowed in American politics. Socialism bad, Islam-based terrorists bad, third world customs bad. Does anyone here, have you ever had a burrito? Have you ever ever eaten with your hands? This is the insanity, and I want to start with that because this is what it means when you're more focused on clickbait and being a professional troll than you are about being a servant of the people. We are here today. Congressional District 5, we know that this does not represent our community, our district, or the people of this beautiful, multiracial, multi-faith, multi-generational community that I've assembled here today. This is what Nashville looks like. This is what Antioch looks like. And this is what Tennessee looks like. And there's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to be afraid. And I would like to make clear to you that this town hall today is a town hall that is welcome to all people. We are people of all political persuasions. If you are a Republican, Democrat, Independent, this is not about left versus right. This is about the people versus the problem. That's what we're here assembled. What we are facing is a politics of theft. We have folks who have voted just recently to steal from Medicaid, to steal from Social Security, to steal from veterans benefits, all to pay for billionaire and corporate tax cuts, not to make your lives better. And what do they do? What do they do as costs go up and salaries remain stagnant? What do they do when Tennesseans are going to be struggling? Thousands people with disabilities without Medicaid. What are they going to try and have us do? They're going to have us try and blame our neighbor. Right. They're going to say, blame the trans student, blame the Muslim woman, blame the immigrant, the refugee, instead of blaming the billionaires of corporate greed that is responsible for unemployment. And so we come here to say that if they come for one of us, we come here as a district to say you're coming for all of us. We're tired of the politics of division. To those who may have felt, I have one my dear sister sitting in the front here with the red bandana, so we have not had events like this in our district. And we need to change that. How many of you, is this your first town hall that you've ever attended? Let's hear you clap so we can hear you. How many of you, this is your first town hall with a federal congressional representative that you've attended? We're here to change that. This is what our government should look like. We should be responsive to the needs of our communities. We should be responsive to the pain. And those who are proximate to the pain should be proximate to the power. That people in our district should not be choosing between affording groceries and paying for their prescription. Right. That is what we're here to say today. We're here to answer your questions. Because as I look across this room, yesterday my colleagues in the General Assembly, in the Republican House Caucus, sent out a fake tweet, a fake flyer trying to portray this event as a violent event, saying that we are calling for violence, trying to intimidate people from coming. And there were people who said, is it still safe to come? Because their goal was to intimidate us. But I think we filled every seat in this auditorium. That is what power of the people looks like. We're not here to speak truth to power, but we want to say we represent a new paradigm that says in power, in our collective power, in people power, we will speak truth. And I do believe that the rooms like this will transform the heart of the state, transform this district, and get these hate mongers out and representing the honorable people of this district. And so without further ado, I am so excited to introduce my dear sister, who comes from Minnesota's 5th Congressional District, Tennessee's 5th Congressional District, the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, a truth teller, somebody who's willing to be a voice of conscience, of conviction, and courage in a time where we have a lot of people with a lot of political power, but not a lot of courage when it comes to their position. Somebody who's a servant of the people. Just last year, we were in her district in Minnesota, and this Congresswoman, I've never done so many events in one day. We were with students, where the Congresswoman herself was knocking doors of dormitory, telling students come out and vote. We met with people impacted by gun violence. We met with those who are advocating for peace and justice. We worked with this multiracial, multi-faith coalition that showed me what is possible for our state. And so I messaged her after I saw the vitriol coming from Congressman Andy Ogles, and said, sister, would you please come and give voice? We have a lot of people here, particularly in Antioch, who are afraid right now, who are being targeted and demonized and traumatized right now.
Yes.
And she said she could be here on Saturday.
Yes.
So we organized this in maybe less than 5 days. But you turned out because you know that this matters. You turned out because you know that this represents the hope and the curiosity as a nation. And so I don't want you to, if I had a hope, I will be here for 10 days. And so I will be very brief. Congressman Ilhan Omar represents Minnesota's 5th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives, which includes Minneapolis and surrounding suburbs. An experienced Twin Cities policy analyst, organizer, public speaker, and advocate, Congresswoman Omar was sworn into office on January 2019, making her the first African refugee to become a member of Congress, the first woman of color to represent Minnesota, and one of the first 2 Muslim American women elected to the U.S. Congress. Please join me in welcoming our honorary Congress member, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Thank you, Antioch, for welcoming me. I am really honored to be here with my brother, Justin Jones, your representative here in Tennessee. And it is kind of sad to see Andy Ogles didn't show up. I was kind of looking forward to having a little chat with him. I must say, I was surprised when Justin asked the audience if this was their first town hall they attended. Yep. And it sounded like from backstage, about 2/3 of you clapped for that. So thank you so much for coming out and participating in our democracy.
Yes.
Thank you for welcoming this Midwestern representative to the South, God's land. They tell me this is where God and freedom and love for country lives, so I'm so glad to be here with you all. When I ran for office, I made 3 promises. The 3 promises were, 1, that I would hold a town hall every single month.
so that I would hear directly from my constituents and that I would make sure to answer their questions and give them updates on both what we were doing back in Washington, D.C. and in the district, Minnesota's Fighting Fifth. What I also promised was that I was not going to take any corporate contributions. Because I believe if you represent the people, yes, then you put them first and not the interest of the corporation. And the third promise I made, and Justin knows this deeply, is that I would never give an audience to a lobbyist. Yeah. Because the people I represent do not have lobbyists. Right. And it was shocked to me when I got to Congress to find myself in the minority. Many of my colleagues would say, Ilhan, what do you mean you hold town halls every single month? What do you mean you allow the audience to ask questions without being vetted? What do you mean that your town halls are open to all of your constituents, whether they voted for you or not? And a lot of them would say to me, how are you able to get the insights of what you need to do without meeting with lobbyists? And so my answer to them has been, I know what to do because I listen to the people I represent. I have the expertise visiting me every single day in my town halls, in my district office, in my congressional office, because my constituents are the experts on what they need in their lives. I know that as a representative of the people, that it is important that we understand as members of Congress, we don't only represent those who vote for us.
Right, right.
We represent those who don't vote for us as well.
Yeah.
We represent the people who show up to every single town hall. We represent the people who give, 5-minute speeches praising us and all the work that we are doing. But we also represent the people who come angry. We represent the ones who want to curse us out. We represent the ones who don't agree on the votes that we take. And the ones who are very disappointed in us. Because goddamn it, in a representative democracy, that is what you are supposed to do. I'm here today for 2 reasons. When Justin called, I never say no. Because I always say, if I wanted a little brother, Justin would be the little brother I would want. And the second reason is that I was shocked. I was shocked that this was a community that had not had their member of Congress holding a town hall. I was shocked that you all do not get the opportunity to hear what your member of Congress has been up to in Congress. And you also do not get to ask questions, to confront them, to register your disappointment. And so I am here to do that for you today. We've heard a little bit about what your member of Congress has been busy with. Justin gave you a snippet. And I will say, go to my official Twitter account or go to my personal Twitter account and contrast that with your member of Congress. What you will see is me talking about the disparities that we have, me saying this is the things that we need to do for our constituents, me talking about where our resources, our tax dollars should be spent, which is here in America, taking care of those that are most vulnerable. And you will hear, as Justin read some of those tweets, your member of Congress spewing hateful rhetoric, discriminating against Muslims having the ability to exercise their constitutional right, not only to vote, but to represent their neighbors. You will hear things that are none of his business. Next to George Washington. Think about that. So it tells you that Andy Ogles is not a serious congressman. It tells you that this is someone who's chasing clout. This is someone who's thinking about maybe a position in the cabinet. Keep dreaming, Andy. This is someone who knows he can get away with this. And we know here in this room that in the next election cycle, we are going to hold him accountable. Because the diversity in this room tells me that you believe in the America that I believe in. The diversity in this room tells me that you are not rightfully represented by a member who does not believe our immigrants belong here. The diversity in this room tells me that you do not believe that you should be represented by someone who spent the last 2 weeks spewing anti-Muslim rhetoric. And before I really truly get into what Andy has been up to, I want to say 2 things. One, I don't know how Andy eats. And I don't know how this has been a talking point. The majority of us at least have 1 or 2 meals where eating with our hands is required. So I don't even know how that's an insult or a slur. And I don't understand, right, why in America it is not allowed for people to have foods that they traditionally had in their homelands or that are part of their ancestry. I don't care if you're white, brown, or black, if you are first generation, second generation, or if you're indigenous to this land. We all have foods that require for us to eat with our hands. So I don't even know why that's blurred. And there's a second thing that has been bothering me. How many of you are Christian in this room? How many of you would think it's an insult if I called you little Jesus? Right? Like, if I'm Christian, I would like to be called little Jesus. Sure, why not? I'm Muslim. We believe Jesus is a prophet. We call him Isa. Majority of our children are named Isa. I would consider them as little Jesus. So for some reason, he thinks it's an insult to call someone little Muhammad. I actually think that's a compliment. think little Moses would be a compliment. If little Adam would be a compliment. Little Abraham would be a compliment. Let's keep going. Little Noah. Jonas. Let's keep going, right? Like, let's, we can all be little of them. But on a serious note, we had just passed the big, ugly bill. And that might be one of the reasons Andy is not holding a town hall, because he's hiding from the fact that he has betrayed his constituents. We talk in Congress a lot with our Republican colleagues who say, people who get maybe $2 or $6 of nutrition benefits are mooching off of the system. But what they have never troubled with is Elon Musk getting $8 million a day in subsidies. So I ask you all in this audience, which one troubles you more? Right. Your neighbor getting $2 a day to get food, or Elon Musk getting $8 million a day? You can say it. Elon. And I think a lot about the fact that they think it is okay to take healthcare away from 17 million Americans, because somehow they think that you're unwilling to work and sit in your mother's basement because you have healthcare coverage. Do you have healthcare coverage? Does that feed you? Does that feed you? Does it clothe you? Does it pay for your bills? I mean, really, it's obscene and absurd, the kind of arguments that Republicans in Congress make. And they think that we are dumb enough as Americans, as voters, as taxpayers, to believe those lies. And what they also do not tell you is that we are interconnected. Yes. Because when you take away healthcare from 17 million people, what you essentially then do is make sure that urban clinics and hospitals are closing down. What you are doing is making sure that people, instead of getting preventive care, that they are rushing to the emergency center. And what that essentially does is it impacts all of us who might be insured by private insurers. So tomorrow, when you have a real emergency, you are not going to be on the front of the line. Tomorrow, when you need special services, and that essential service has been shut down, that means you are not going to get it. So when they make us focused on taking away programs for others, what they forget to tell us is that we also will be impacted. You hear right now with immigration, so many people wrote songs, supported, created Cubans for Trump, Venezuelans for Trump. They were really excited because they thought somebody else was getting deported, that they were not going to be on the chopping block. And now we see their TikTok videos, we see them doing interviews. They're like, I didn't think he was gonna come for my wife. My wife and I were supporters of him. We didn't think he was gonna come for my mom. My mom and I were supporters of him. I didn't think he was gonna come for my grandpa. My grandpa and I were supporters of him. The reality is, when they come for one of us, they're eventually gonna come for all of us. When the protocols were being implemented, we talked about the weather services. and how many of the programs that they were cutting and these essential services where they were leaving people to, eventually face the consequences. We laid it out for them. We said these cuts are eventually going to lead to death. And they said, no, you're hyperbolic. Democrats are always exaggerating. Okay, you're not being honest about what will eventually happen. People can sustain themselves, counties can fill the gap, states can fill the gap, cities can fill the gap. And in Kerr County, Texas, the Biden administration offered them $10.2 million. And they said, we do not need your money.
Amen.
And today, unfortunately, the unthinkable has happened. And instead of taking that money, putting in, right, what they might need in order to protect themselves, they did the partisan thing and said, we don't need Democrats' money in Texas, we can take care of ourselves. And today we have dozens of little girls between the ages of 8 and 13. My youngest is a 13-year-old daughter. And I watch the news with her as they continue to discover bodies. And it is a mother's and a father's or any parent's worst nightmare to know that your government could have done something to protect the lives of your children. And they did not. Worse yet, they intentionally chose to do nothing. And now you are left to bury them. And so we have policies and policymakers that are very much interested in doing us against them. And you have policymakers that are saying, we are in this together. Because the United States of America means that we are united as Americans in taking care of one another. So I'm excited to answer your questions, and I'll leave you with this. There is a lot of despair. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of disconnectedness. And the only way we move forward as a country united is to not look down on one another, but to lift each other up. It's not to rejoice in each other's pain, but it's to feel each other's pain. And I hope that you all leave this room today promising that you will connect or reconnect with a neighbor. That regardless of who they might vote for, what their politics might be, that you don't leave them behind, that you keep that connection, that dialogue, that conversation. Because in this country, we have gone too far. We have gone too far. We need to start seeing each other as each other's neighbor, as each other's siblings, as each other's children. I have Trump voting in-laws. And I tell people this all the time, that I might have my feelings about people who vote for Trump. But I know that something happened along the way for their transformation into believing that that man cared about America and them. And it is up to us to make sure they see it otherwise. And so I have committed to making sure that I see them as my loving in-laws. and they continue to see me as their loving daughter-in-law. To the chagrin of Fox News, who constantly demonizes me as the devil in the flesh. Right? When I'm at their Thanksgiving dinner table, I am just Ilhan to them. And I hold that dearly because we all know and have in our lives people who we do not agree with on everything. Actually, that would be insane if we had people in our lives that we agreed with on everything. And so try to find the thing that holds our common humanity and let's build on that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for those incredible words, and also a reminder to really work hard and connect with your community. I have a lot to do with my neighbors. A lot of work to do. Okay, now let's do the great part. You guys get to ask questions. There's a lot of folks in the room, which is so incredible, but if you could just keep it brief when you ask a question so we can get to as many as possible. You're just going to raise your hand. There's going to be mics floating around and you'll be called upon. And again, if you could keep it short and to the point of question, that would be incredible, so we could hear from as many folks as possible. So let's start right here.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. My name is Lisa. I have a very serious question. And I spend a couple hours a day figuring out, I come from a sales background. So I have looked at Nashville from a sales mind, and where are the 30% voters that did not turn out? And I figured them out, and I will not tell the politicians. They don't talk to the people. So take it outside of Nashville. Is there a place I can look that we are all looking, us good people that want everybody to be good with us, to look at hot spots that need help? Like Andy Ogles is real obvious. That's Tennessee, but outside of Tennessee, because I don't have the big DC picture like you would have. And I have been praying for this moment to have someone to ask that question to, because I drive people crazy. I ask the question till I get the answer. So how would you counsel me to find those spots that need help? Like I'm gonna go to upstate New York where I'm from, because they're all Trumps, my family included, that don't talk to me. But New York City's full, they don't need me. So I'm already planning something there, but outside of my little world, what would you advise?
I mean, I would,
And maybe Justin can speak back on this. I think there are a lot of, I mean, Tennessee is considered a red state. And I oftentimes don't believe in blue or red states. Because it is about having a conversation with folks, trying to make sure what their actual needs are and how to address them. In 2010, I was out in North Dakota, Dora. North Dakota prior to 2010 was a very blue state. It was represented by 2 senators on the federal level, they're Democrats, and their sole member of Congress was a Democrat, Earl Palmer. And I think almost every seat that we were there to defend as Democrats, we lost in 2010. And I tell that story because the Republicans put in the work in North Dakota. It wasn't that there was a demographic shift. Right. It was because they were having conversations with folks. A lot of it was disinformation, but they did the groundwork to build our base into their base. Right. And I think if we want to do the same thing as Democrats, we have to be out everywhere here in Tennessee, in Iowa, in Wisconsin. There's so many, in North Dakota and South Dakota, there's so many states that we lost in 2010 that we haven't been fully able to get back. North Carolina is trending back. So it is gonna take the work, from all of us to be able to do that.
Hi, my name is Nicole, and I serve Metro Public School students. That includes immigrants, first gen, and undocumented students. And part of my work is advising students on their path after high school. And I'm having a really hard time right now, sitting across from an undocumented student and telling them that it is possible for them to pursue a higher education. It used to feel impossible, and now I didn't know it was possible for it to feel worse, and it does. I don't have a specific question, but we're seeing ICE use our schools as campouts in our parking lots. We have students that are afraid to come to school, and so truly I'm here today seeking your wisdom. Thank you.
I mean, it is unprecedented. It is challenging times, I would say, to be an immigrant at the moment. In the big ugly bill, we authorized about $150 billion. That is, I think, more than 180 countries' military budgets. And we've seen, the construction of Alcatraz, alligator Alcatraz. We're seeing people being abducted and sent to dungeons in foreign countries. Some people disappearing with no accounting for where they have gone. Their families are not able to get a single response. We're seeing DECA being threatened. We're seeing a lot of the policies that are passing. I know Justin was telling me that there's been a debate here to make it so that young people who are undocumented are not able to go to our public schools. And so it is challenging times. What I would tell them is that we've been through a lot as a nation. The pendulum always swings to keep the faith. And hopefully, as they go through their education, the window will open. There will be a different leadership, and we will be able to have our country again be a beacon of hope for so many people around the world.
I think one thing we have to speak in this space is that this is the first mass gathering we're having in this part of our community since the acts of terror that occurred at the first week of May here in Southeast Nashville. 196 people kidnapped within 5 days. The majority of whom the Department of Homeland Security admitted has never been convicted of any crime. Still many who we do not know where they are. And unlike other states like California, New York, we actually have seen it in collaboration with our state government leaders. Governor Bill Lee, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, participated in those raids and racial profiling stops. In fact, we came out on Unagap Pike on the night of May 9th, and I was out there trying to inform people their rights to document what was happening. And we saw ICE agents within the Tennessee Highway Patrol vehicles. And as I went up as a lawmaker in my district, trying to just get protect my oversight capacity as we do with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, they chose to shine the flashlights. We could not even report them and refuse to answer our questions. And what we saw, as you know, I just filed the Stop American Estoppel Act, trying to ban law enforcement from doing law. Something that even some of our Republicans said is common sense, because we know that it's also a bill about stopping human trafficking. It's a bill about stopping, these attacks that make it unsafe for people to be out. If you see a group of men in plaid shirts with masks, sunglasses, and baseball caps in a white van and tell you to get in, I would think it was a kidnapping happening. And so that's exactly what we have to name it for. And we must continue to show up. We must recognize too that it's being done in collaboration with our state government. We know that during our special session earlier this year, the Tennessee House Republicans passed a partisan bill that, number one, creates an office, a czar of immigration attacks in our community to collaborate with the federal government. Number two, our local officials vote for what they deem to be sanctuary city policies. They will be charged with a felony. I mean, this is something that is un-American, something that we have not seen, unprecedented. And so I think what we would say to the students is that there's a reason why these ICE agents are wearing masks. And I believe it's the same reason that there was a group of men in Tennessee who also used to wear masks and white sheets. If you can really exactly who they are. So they were the wrong side of history. And that when we reclaim power, we will hold them accountable. You know, Trump wants to call this alligator Alcatraz. I call it crocodile concentration camp. Because if you have an extrajudicial prison where people's rights are not respected, there's no normal legal process, that is a concentration.
Right, yeah.
And we must call it what it is and shame those who participate in this rhetoric and let them know that just like they're trying to ban votes because they're ashamed of what their grandparents did, that their children too will be ashamed of what they stood in this time.
That's right.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Hendricks. I am from Franklin, Tennessee. My interests lie in this attack on the 14th Amendment. So, Congresswoman, thank you for being here in this red state, first of all. But I do want to understand what kinds of conversations you are engaged in on the Hill around this issue of birthright citizenship. And then I wanted to get your perspective on whether it's passed or not passed, what do we see going forward in terms of this attack?
There is a lot of conversation that's happening around the birthright citizenship. There are two groups, I think, that are very much fighting this cause in Congress. That's the Hispanic caucus that has an interest in understand that this is an attack on their community and their community is the one that's being utilized to further this conversation and discourse. The other is the Congressional Black Caucus, which I am a proud member of. And what the Black Caucus understands is that their plight is being used as an excuse to strip the right that is enshrined in the 14th Amendment. What the conversation has been, you hear from, white nationalists like Stephen Miller, who will say, this was essentially created for those who were enslaved to become citizens of the country that they were enslaved in. This was to give them the right after emancipation. But the reality is, what the 14th Amendment says, anyone born in American soil has the right to be a citizen of this country. And the idea that we would threaten that is a threat to African Americans, and it should be a threat to every single American that is living on the soil. And we are fighting it aggressively. I think they counted a win when it said, not just one jurisdiction can make sure every other jurisdiction cannot rule on it. We know that the actual ruling will come in October. I am very optimistic that the Supreme Court will stay strong. They have been in matters that are concerning the Constitution. And it is my deep belief that is going to happen. But it is creating a lot of fear, not just people. And I just want you all to think about this. Since March, when the executive order to get rid of birthright was implemented, there are so many kids that are born in the United States that do not know, right? Their families are in limbo. They don't know if their child is a citizen of this country or not. And many of those kids, because they are not born in the countries that their parents come from, do not automatically have citizenship. So we have so many kids that have been born in the last couple of months that are essentially rendered stateless. This is something as lawmakers in the United States, as administrators have frowned upon when other countries do that to children.
right? We have pushed, we've sanctioned, we've said it's a human rights violation. We've tried to give incentives to other countries to implement this policy that we are now saying, as Americans, we no longer believe in. And it is my belief that when the administration says, as Americans, we don't believe in this, that is not a testament from what the American people actually believe in. So I do want the world to know, as I sit on this stage, that the American people are not consenting to this idea that we are against birthright citizenship.
Hello, yes, you can. Hi, my name is Toby. How are you going to keep kids safe and tell us we will be safe?
Thank you so much for being brave and for being willing to ask a question and for being with your mom today. This is why we're here. There's two things I want to tell you, Tony, is that number one is that you being here is that you are like a superhero, that you are here trying to make our community safer, and that you are representing what we should be doing. And so you're a leader. So when you go to school, I hope that you know that you are a leader that we're looking for in this time. It breaks my heart hearing this question. The first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that here in the 5th Congressional District, within less than 5 years, we've had 2 school shootings. I just want to honor the victims of the Covenant mass shooting as well as the ANTIOCH mass shooting, school shooting that just happened recently here, and recognize that when we talk about a school shooting, it's shameful that we have to say, which one are you talking about? Which school shooting are you talking about? And I think, number one, we have a duty in this time to say that we want to represent a politics that protects kids and not guns. That it's shameful that after the mass shooting at Covenant, there's only one piece of gun legislation that was passed in the House of Representatives and the Tennessee Senate, and that was to protect gun manufacturers from liability, not to protect our children, not to protect our community. That is shameful. And it represents a politics that says something about the heart of our community, not our community, but our community leaders, I should say, that you're willing to put the profits of the gun industry over the lives of our babies. There's something immoral, something constitutionally inconsistent, something sick in a city and a community that would be willing to do that. And so we have to call that out for really. Because number one, we have to address what's happening with this proliferation of guns. For Tennessee, it's easier to get a gun than it is to vote. It's easier to get a gun than it is to get high quality public education. It's easier to get a gun than it is to access healthcare. That is shameful. And number two, when we hear the question, how do we protect our kids? I think about 2 other bills that recently passed. One, attacking the LGBTQ youth in our state. Tennessee had more anti-LGBTQ laws mainly going after students than any other state in the nation. That is not a priority that I've heard in this district. That is not something to say that we want to legislate voting and targeting students. And number two,